Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Parabrahmam, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Sudashiva Samarambam, Shankaracharya Madhyamam, Asmadacharya Paryandam, Vande Guru Paramparam. Sakanavavadu, Sakanapunaktu, Sakaviryam Karabhavakai, Tejasvina, Vadidamastumavat Vishavakai. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Om Yogena Chittasya Patena Vacham, Malam Sarirasya Chavaitikena, Yopa Karottam Pravaram Munina, Patanjali Pranjali Manatosmi. So, namaskar. Sorry about that interruption in the previous class. So we are learning the Sadhana Padha of Patanjali. Sometimes we may think, why not this Sadhana Padha should be a very quick guide. So you basically look for a problem, find a sadhana, go to the chapter, a mantram or asanam or a dhyanam, a method. But it is not like that, right? It's just going on, explaining more and more things. Especially these days, we want a quick solution. Everything should be very quick. But that is not the education. That's called a method in which knowledge is imparted to us. It's very important to differentiate between problem solving and solution finding. There are two different things. I was just trying to get justification why we go through a repetitive statement imparting of the same truth in a different way, both in Gita and Patanjali, in all the Shastras. Because there is a subtle difference between problem solving and solution finding. Because we normally like to have solution finding. Everything that you have a problem, you immediately look for a solution because inherently our asmita, our ego, thinks that it knows the problem. The moment you know that you know the problem, then it will be a very expensive pursuit of searching for solution because you spend your time and effort, resources, knowledge, and then you find the solution by the time the problem has changed. You see? So I think this is the common sense. In any life pursuits, the first step is to define the problems more precisely. So by doing that, what happens is that the problems get dissolved. Or if it is well defined, the solution of the sadhana becomes very easier. That's why you don't find the Sadhana Padha to be an index of enumerated list of sadhanas. So you can just say, you got a headache, what do you do? It's a headache, Panadol. Tablet, you take it, paracetamol. And you continue to watch television. But the headache may be the brain telling you, knock off, time to go to bed. Or it may be a very serious problem. So sometimes it is very important to analyze the problem. That's why Patanjali explains more and more and more about the problems so that the solution becomes very easier. You see? So that's why I think I'm also recapping every time, and you may get bored that why there's a recap every time. The recap is to make this each session to be as complete as possible. B, to have you come with fully charged, get momentum for it. I normally would suggest that, this kind of a very complex subjects is better to, revise it. Like the Sunday class, Saturday class, if you look at the last week's session, then much easier to do. Anyway, so what we saw was a sadhana. He started with the Kriya Yoga. Tapaswadhyaya, Ishvara Pranidhani, Kriya Yoga. That's in Sutra 1 he gave. We know that. Tapas, Swadhyaya, Ishvara Pranidhana. These three are important for Kriya Yoga. The Kriya Yoga is a sadhana that he is imparting us. Then in the Sutra 2, he said, Samadhi Bhavana, Artha Klesha Tanu Karana Arthascha. So there are two benefits he gave by Kriya Yoga. You will get the Samadhi Bhavana. Bhavana means Utpatti. You will attain the Chitta Vritti Nirodham by Kriya Yoga if you practice it. And immediately it will give you a method of weakening your Klesha. Klesha Tanukaranam. Tanukaranam means weakening it. So there is a benefit. So why he says that? Because when you start this Kriya Yoga, you want to see the results coming up. So he's giving you an assurance that you will watch, your Kleshas are going to be weakened. Then we ask, what is this Klesha? He said there are Pancha Klesha. In Sutra 3 to 9, he gave you Pancha Klesha. You remember that? These Pancha Kleshas, Avidya, Asmita, Ragaha, Dveshaka, Abhiniveshaka. So this Klesha, why he is doing this now? Because in the Patanjali Yoga Sutra, he is bringing Klesham or the vrittis to dukkha paryantam, grief-creating thoughts. Those are the cause of all our miseries. But you know, we studied in Vedanta, the karmas are the cause of the samsaras, right? Every time you do papa punya, depending on the papa punya, you come back to this world, you have an embodiment. So potentially, he's going to connect these two. He's going to bring in the klesham and the karmam, karmashayam, or the cause and effect. So he's going deep down to eradicate our bondage. So he says, the Pancha Kleshaka, they are getting fattened by our worldly pursuits. Yuttana. We talked about it in the last session. All our activities create thoughts, thoughts create vrittis, samskaras, samskaras again create another vrittis. So it goes on. And this is getting fattened. This vrittis, klesha is getting fattened when you deal with the worldly pursuits. Of course, I need to deal with the worldly pursuits. Absolutely. But to counter that, if you have adhyatmika pursuits, pursuits of your own nature, pursuits of self-inquiries, there's going to be an antidote for it. In Patanjali always gives you a prati. If that happens, you do this way, because everything's about balancing it. So, but we deal with this world. Life is full of activity in the world. So the Pancha Klesha, if you remember that, the first is avidya. What is avidya? Avidya is the kshetram for everything else. Avidya kshetram uttaresham prasupta tanu vichinna udarana. So this is where it is, everything is starting. We saw that. Then we saw asmita. Asmita is when the confusion of Chaitanyam and the Chaitanya Pratibimba, Chitabhasha, the buddhi get lightened up by the consciousness, and the buddhi think, I exist, I do this, I come, I am the one, I am the person, I own it. That identity that happens is asmita. Now he calls it a klesham. But this klesham, we need to have it, because just because I go to this class and I come back and say, somebody asks me who I am, and I say, Aham Brahma, I don't know. You can't say that. So we have to deal with this world. Therefore, asmita is a klesham to be handled well. But it's still a klesham. Then we saw ragaha. Ragaha means what? Ragam means attachment. Normally we attach to things that gives us joy, happiness, pleasure. So the ananda, shugavastu, sugasadhanam, sugopayam, anything that gives you happiness, pleasure, you get attached to it. That is ragaha. When that is not happiness, when that is sadness, grief, pain, you don't get attached to it. You, in fact, disdain, you hate, dislike, dvesha. So raga, dvesha are the two kleshas. These are the filters of your perspective. The way I take you, the way I listen to your statements, the way I look at you, is everything depending on what is my filters of raga and dvesha on you. Invariably, we are all bound by this. That's why we see the same thing differently, depending on what is our mind to it. So raga dvesha is the very most profound, well-expressed kleshas that we know. Then the last class, we saw the last one, abhiniveshaka. Abhiniveshaka is the fear of death. It's not a literal meaning. That's a meaning that Patanjali uses it. The love of life. So we saw that Sutram Swarasa Vahi Vidushaka api Tadharuda Abhiniveshaka. Abhinivesham means that fear of death, which is due to what? Swa Rasa Vahi. 3 words. Swa, self. Rasa means samskara. Vahi, Vahana, that is being carried out. Some thoughts in my mind deep down is having this fear. In other words, it's a smriti. It's a memory. People say, don't touch the snake, it will bite you. So the parents teach the children to fear snake. Therefore, when you see a snake, the smriti comes in, you must be fearful of the snake. You get fearful. Or you say, or even the God, if you do things, God will punish you. So you have a fear of God. Rather, if you say, if you do good things, God will give you good things, then every time you have affinity, pleasure, and see the God. So memory. So memory is a very important point. You see, I repeat it because every time I repeat it, I try to find out a different interpretation of it. I mean, this is all version, every time you go and touch it, it gives you a very different perspective. So if you take a literal meaning of abhinivesam, Visha. So Vishwa is the root. So getting into, holding on to. So abhinivesam, literally it means holding on to whatever you're holding on to. Stubbornly holding on to your thoughts, your principles. See, if you take that one, this is much bigger interpretation it gives to us, very practical interpretation it gives to us. What is that? If you are just holding on to your own dogma, your own ideas in this world, that is a klesha. For me, this is worse than the death. Because, if you do not understand this, it's very difficult to understand Vedanta. Because in Vedanta, everything is upside down. Whatever you learned, you have to unlearn it. But to unlearn it, you must have egoless, prideless approach. Asmita had to go. So if you take abhinivesha, there are 2 meanings. Therefore, abhinivesha is a fear of death, which is natural because of many, many janmas of death, because Patanjali here giving you the reincarnation as a truth. So this fear comes to me because I died so many deaths before. But the other meaning I can take is that abhinivesham is a klesham if I have hold on to my dogma all the time. So what's the cure? For example, avidya means anatmane atma buddhihi. What is not right, you think that is right. What is not you, you think that is you. So what is the solution for it? Now that problem is well defined. Avidya is that thinking non-self as a self. Now, since the problem is very well defined, you can define the solution. What is the solution? That you understand correctly, is it not? So jnanam is the solution. See, you don't need any doctorate in this. This is the beauty of defining the problems very precisely. Therefore, the avidya is solved by jnanam only. Jnanameva. So Vedanta, it goes about jnanameva kaivalyam. Avidya is everything. All the problems are avidya. Jnanam is a result. Therefore, Vedanta is perfectly right. Well, I don't want Vedanta. I can just pray to God. God will give me this. Of course, God will give you that. But what God will give you? God will give you the Guru. The Guru will give you the jnanam, and avidya goes away. So God is not the solution there. God is the upayam. See? This is very important to understand. So, same way here, abhinivesham means holding on to the or one dogma means that is a very clear definition. If you take it, what is the solution you will define? Let go. Don't hold on to this. I'm not saying unprincipled way, but don't have dogmas. So therefore, what is the effect of it? Immediately you get humility. Everything. In everything you have a knowledge. Therefore, everything you have a position, a power. But that is abhinivesham. So therefore, I don't hold on to it. So tomorrow if somebody tells me, well, Raja, this is not the right understanding, then I would say, okay, teach me. So I will learn. Of course, then I will correct it or correct him, depending on how the results come through. But the approach to learning comes from removing abhinivesham. So I prefer this meaning so that, of course, death is something which we need to pass through and fight against. But this is a much better meaning to go through. So before I go to the next sutra, which we need to start learning today, I want to give you an easy way to understand that. So all these things, avidya, asmita, raga, dvesha, abhinivesha, all this klesham, all this happens because of what? Of experiences. If you have experience, what happens? Experience means you start engaging with an object of experience and you have a feeling out of it. It creates a vritti and the vritti becomes a memory. So what happened when you have memory? You have memory. From the memory, you have raga. The memory, you have dvesha. The memory, you have abhinivesha. Now, if I define the memory like this, then again you may borrow my argument and say, okay, memory is well defined. The solution, therefore, is don't have memory. If you don't have memory, you have raga, no dvesha, no abhinivesha. It's true. If you don't have memory, if you are in a deep sleep, you have no memory. You have no raga, dvesha, abhinivesha. If you have amnesia, you are lunatic, you lost your memory, you are in a coma. No. But that's not the right solution there. Because we need to understand, if memory is creating raga, dvesha, abhinivesham, and these are the kleshas, so the tanukaranam, to weaken this one, I need to modulate my memories. That means I must either have the memory restored or destroyed. You see, that's the right solution. Now, from this memory comes all desires. This is something for you to contemplate. See, desire, kama, icha, ashayas or ashay, asay in Tamil, ashayas in Sanskrit, they wish. No, you cannot have desire or icha or asha without memory. You will not ask for, you will not yearn for, long for, lust for anything if you don't have memory of it. See, I'm trying to make it so that you can bring everything into one basket, which is this vritti called memory. Raga, dvesha, abhinivesham comes from the experience and the memory. Now, with that knowledge, let's go to the next sutra. What he did was, he gave Kriya Yoga, and he said that Klesha Tanu Karana. So if you use the Kriya Yoga, all these Pancha Kleshas will be weakened. But what he did not say explicitly, that he is thinking of Kleshas manifesting in two forms. First is called a Sthulam. Sthulam means gross form. What is Sthulam here means that you can actually see it expressing in some form. I get angry at you, krodham. It's expressed, is Sthulam. I cry because somebody's misery, I'm crying at it. Sthulam. I say, I do this, Asmita, Sthulam. So when it is expressed in terms of words, thoughts, and action that can be felt and experienced, this is called Sthula Klesham. What Patanjali has done, he has given Kriya Yoga to weaken only this Sthula part of the Pancha Klesha. He's going to use a word called Parikrama later. Parikrama means like a parikaram, which is basically a remedy for it, a remedial action for Klesha, for the Sthula. You see how he is defining the problem more and more and more. He has not given us a technique so far. He's not told us how to do the dhyanam yet. But he's defining the problems to make it easier to understand. The Sthula Klesham, so you must all now know what is the Sthula Klesham is, that you can feel, express, can be removed or weakened by the Kriya Yoga. What is Kriya Yoga? You should know. Tapas Swadhyaya Pranidhanani. Because this is attitude modification, activity modification, karma yoga modification, attenuating. When you're doing Kriya Yoga, people will know that there is a transformation in you. You are a very different person now. You become calm, you become very serene, you become very accommodative. Your approach is very debonair-like, decorum, shantam. Not necessarily at the jnani's level, but from where you are improving. And that comes by Kriya Yoga, plus some values that we learned in the first chapter. Most importantly, the one, Sutra 33, which I think you should always remember this. It's a very good handy tool. Maitri, Karuna, Mudita, Upekshana, Sugadukha, Punya, Vishayana, Bhavanas, Chitta Prasadana. Maitri Bhavam, Karuna Bhavam, Mutitam means encouragement, happiness, Upekshana, indifference. So you apply these four techniques. Friendly approach wherever, whoever is happy. Karuna, compassion to whoever it is, doesn't matter. Karuna, and whoever is finding dukkha. Mutidam, being encouraged, motivated, happy when somebody is doing virtuous act. Whoever it is, a Christian or a Muslim is doing a great job, charitable task, don't care about the religious sector. Great job he's doing. Punya, encouraged by it. Upeksha, somebody who's doing wrong things, he's abusing scriptures, be indifferent to him. So we learned all this. So we use these values, with these values in life, in conduct, in external conduct. Kriya Yoga in your internal attitude modification, you will resolve. You will not kill it, but you will weaken all your kleshas. This is what so far we have learned. Therefore, the next question comes in. What next? So anything that is sthulam, gross, means it must have a subtle nature. So always we learn in Tattva Bodha. You have a Karana Sariram, Sukshma Sariram, Sthula Sariram. Karanam, Sukshmam, Sthulam. A thought is my Sukshmam, Karanam. My words may be the, maybe I take a different one there. So I think of a nice, happy occasion. Then I draw a picture So the drawing is an act of bringing the causal part to subtle part, and then sharing the picture with everybody else, cross part. So same way, the world is created a Karana Jagat, Sukshma Jagat, Sthula Jagat. So therefore, Panchaklesha should have a Sthula state. And I think we also touched upon it, because when you remember that Sutra where we talked about, this is Samadhi Bhavanarthacha, Klesha Tanu Karnam. The Tanu would come in Prasuptam Tanu Vichinna Udharana. So everything will go into the tree before it was a plant, before a sapling, before a seed. The seed, it is in a Sukshma part. So therefore, here the inference is, when I do all the Kriya Yoga, I do all these values, what happened to my kleshas? They become Sukshma. So does it mean I am free now? No, because if Sukshma means it will come out. That's why Ravana was doing penance for so many years. When doing the penance, he was like a baby. Like when somebody is sleeping, a murderer, when he's sleeping, he is as a cat. But when he gets up, so all this tapas and Kriya Yoga, everything suppresses the klesha. They don't kill it. They make it from the sthula to, it makes it sukshma. So example is like sleeping. An angry person, when he sleeps, he's not angry. When he gets up, he's angry again. So the sleep is like a dhyana or samadhi. So here, therefore, you must understand very, very clearly, I'm not belittling Kriya Yoga. Kriya Yoga is not everything. Sometimes when you read and you look at these things, Kriya Yoga is complete. Once you do Kriya Yoga, nothing. You don't need scriptures, nothing else. No. Patanjali's stance, Kriya Yoga is an important step. But it makes you a good person in the world. And then it gives you a much bigger responsibility that you have tamed the tiger. The tiger is in you. So Kriya Yoga is actually transferring you a good person in you and then giving you a major responsibility. And therefore, the question is, how do I solve this sukshma? So for this, you go to the next one. He says, Te pratiprasava heyaha sukshmaha. Te pratiprasava heyak sukshmaha. It's a very, very important sutra this is. You will see from now on, maybe up to the important part, most popular part of Ashtanga Yoga comes later. But this is what I like in Patanjali. What he is doing now is bringing everything into Vedanta. He's going to take into most important part of the Vedantic import and then turn around and say, now given that, do this Ashtanga Yoga to resolve it. So as the first step here, he's talking about this Sukshma Klesha. So he say, Te pratiprasava heyaha sukshmaha. So let's see what the meaning of it. Te means it is those, Bahuvachanam. Those, what are those? Those 5 afflictions, Rupancha Klesha. But he qualifies it, Sukshmaha, Visheshanam. Those kleshas which have now become subtle, again the same name, Avidya, Asmita, Ragadvesha, Abhinidesha, everything is now inside. So you see, I become a Kriya Yogi, I do everything nicely in the world, but I still have a Sukshma kleshas there. Therefore, I would preach, I will act as if I have surpassed all the Ragadvesha. I don't know when the ghost will come. Just because you teach, you don't fear about murder or death. If you come and jump in front of me with a knife, maybe I get scared. Maybe not. I don't know. So the Sukshma is still there. So unless I am getting rid of it, I can't really surpass this fear, surpass this anger, this dvesha, raga. So all that has to be surpassed, removed, deleted is called heyaha. Heyaha means that to be dispensed with, that to be reduced, that to be removed. So in plural, Bhagavachan, heyaha, all those that is to be abandoned. How is it abandoned? Total and permanent. Not just giving up today and getting back tomorrow. Completely avoided, completely removed. Anything you see in the world that you want to completely remove, get away from this, that can be called a heyaha. So walking in the dark is a fear for me. So that fear I need to remove means that is your heyaha. That's what you want to sort it out. So here he says, those subtle things are the heyaha. They ought to be removed. Right, I know it. But how? Pratiprasava. It's a very beautiful word, this is. I mean, this word has been used in many, many sciences today, in many, many different ways. So pratiprasava means, prasavam means, as you know, prasavam means to create, utpatti, srishti. So prati is reverse of it. So if prasava means srishti, pratiprasava means layam, dissolution, involution. So he says here, all that is to be removed is the kleshas of sukshma nature. The gross nature, we already done it. Gross nature already done it by Kriya Yoga. So he says, this you can resolve it by the process of pratiprasava. What is that? That means you go from the effect to the cause. How can I go from the effect to the cause? If your curd has come from the milk, curd can never go back to the milk. But here we're talking about a very subtle nature. This is about reversing the changes in nature. Is it possible? Patanjali says, yes, it's possible. So even the science today, it is in psychology, it becomes a very important faculty. You know, all the science of hypnosis, all this is about this. So it is a very great philosopher, scientist called Jano. He actually produced great research, which is now being practiced, that to bring in suffering and destroy suffering, you carry somebody's thought process in a mild hypnosis. You go take them back to the incident where the suffering had a scar. In other words, he's trying to find out this smriti, that memory. You see, you just know learn memory is everything, right? So when you have trouble, the unseen, unknown anguish that when you suffer, psychologists do, therapists do, based on this Patanjali's pratiprasava approach, they take it through one step at a time. In fact, I remember many years back, there's one session I attended called NLP, Neuro-Linguistic Programming. So it's a technical stuff, but anyway, it is related to how the behaviors happen. And this therapist was giving an example where he used to conduct sessions where people come with kind of anxiety, and he make them stay in a mild hypnosis. Hypnosis is a process by which you surrender your mind, the thought process, to the instructor, so that you let the instructor to put thoughts in your mind. Exactly that. No, everything is Maya, right? So nothing happens. So if you think in your mind it happens to you. So hypnosis is a process. You open your mind where somebody can actually, we are all in hypnosis all the time. Don't get me wrong. It's not a sort of magic, So when you sit there and your lovely child is in the other room, it says, Daddy, please come here. And you go there. What happened? Hits request, puts the thought in your mind, and there's a love, affection, you go. So when you expand this one, and when you don't understand the action you're doing, what it happens, it becomes a different level of obeying as hypnosis. Anyway, so what this guy was showing is very interesting, because if somebody is suffering, he will make them go through this process of thinking through this in the mind. Think in Pradip here. He goes through, the person steps back in time, and then he found the problem. Okay, then he stretches. Then he says, hey, you got the problem there, and he makes the problem to look like a black ball, a billiard ball or what. And then he will give you a very beautiful thought experience that the person has got before. And then you take that beautiful thought to grow bigger and smash this bad thought, and that memory is gone. Okay, so all that is something which is a pseudoscience, and it is something they do. But the effect is very good, because the person who is given the mind to them abide by the instruction, and they're able to smash this memory, and they find cure. Okay, I've just taken application of it. What Patanjali, the master of psychology, is telling here is sukshma kleshams can be removed by pratiprasavam. So he's not telling here how to do it, but he's giving the upayam. So that means my sukshma klesham has to be what? Has to go into its karana state. That means I must take it back into the karana state. You remember the Tattva Bodha? What is karana shariram? Karana shariram is all our pava punya karma palans. Akarmana priyojana. Andakarana sesha. Whatever is not really given you the benefit yet. Suppose I stole money, I robbed people, I hurt people, and I did a lot of bad things. I'm enjoying life, I'm winning lottery ticket, I'm having fun. And there's no connection, right? I'm doing all the bad things and I'm living happily. But this is the play of God, He doesn't make it happen immediately, If I do bad things, I get immediate bad effect. Nobody will do bad things in this world, would they? If you do good things, you get a good benefit. Everybody will do good things in the world. Life will be boring, right? But there is a gap there. When you do things, it takes time to come back to you. But this time can be longer, can be even births. So now here, the Karana Sariram is where you have the accumulation of all your outstandings, your Pava, debits, Punya, credit, all the accounting balance by Chitragupta. Who is Chitragupta? Your secret consciousness. It's keeping there. Okay, this embodiment has to suffer 2,000 problems and 20,000 punyas. So what is the best embodiment for him to suffer all this? Well, this is too much to do. So as it stands, you need to take maybe 300 births. So this next birth, let him take as a person, and he will suffer 15 of papas and 20 of punyas. Everything else is sukshma, karana, causal. That has no impact on you in this birth. But what has come now becomes sukshma. Now this will now create problems. So this klesham comes in. So I stole somebody's money, right, in my last janma. So now I go there and somebody pickpockets me. You see? So therefore, there is a causal state. So pratiprasava means I must have the way to take the raga dvesha to its root. Now, if you think very carefully, the problem is well defined than this. Why? Avidya kshetram. So avidya is a kshetram for all klesha. So if you take, for example, bhayam, fear is my klesha. What's the pratiprasavam for it? The fear comes in because either I hate something, I hate death. So therefore I think anything I hate, I get fear. So what's the pratiprasavam for fear? I must take the fear, put into its cause. What is the cause? Dvesha. Okay. Now what is the dvesha? Dvesha comes in because that person is not giving me happiness. So raga, same way. So if you keep on moving it, what happens is all moves into asmita. Then asmita goes to avidya. Now, Patanjali is going to take us through this process and say pratiprasava is a technique. So you start moving each klesha and then putting into this, like the Russian doll, that is a good example to remember. The big doll and then small doll, small doll, small doll. And you want to throw everything away, put everything into one, chuck it away, burn it away. So he's going to give us all this little kleshas to go one onto the root and we throw it away. Okay. Now, when you do this process, this is a very interesting point. When you do this process, that means you are moving from one step closer to the further sukshma level. Your mind attains peace, and that is a different state of samadhi. Now, if you remember, maybe if you need to go back and revise the chapter 1, we talked about different samadhi states. Now, if you now know this, and you will understand it better. So the samadhi happens, egagram and, all this thing, we talked about it. The samadhi state happens because I am moving from my klesha level, gross to subtle, and subtle from one state to another state to another state. So more finer I go, more deeper and more virtuous is the samadhi. Okay. So the in literal meaning, therefore, is these afflictions, these pancha kleshas, are to be made subtle. How to make it subtle? Kriya Yoga. Kriya Yoga takes it, Tanu Karanam, means it weakens it, powders it. Cutting the trees, cut the branches, and then you powder everything. So progressively, and then you take the process of dissolve it through the pratiprasava. A bit heavy, but I think you will understand it. So you understand the pratiprasava. We will going to use the word again. You will come across in I think in Saundarya Lagri, there is one sloga. It says, Sadushashtya Dantrai Sakalam Adisantaya Bhuvanam Siddhas Tattat Siddhi Prasava Pradantrai Pashupati. Prasava Chitti Prasava. I think Shankara is saying, Lord, you created all this world into the 64 tattvas and chakras and all that. I'm making it very simple. But then that is given to this Shakti to bring it prasava. The Garbhini is Ambal. So prasava means that bringing it out. The only difference is the prasava will become a lion. Everything will go back to the womb. So the aroma of pratiprasava, we will discuss it more when we discuss it, some of the sutras later in the chapter. I want to talk about this word, heyaha. Heyaha means, I told you, that which is to be avoided, weakened, eradicated. So this is a very important principle in our life. In life, we need to really find out which path to be avoided. Because the moment you know that which path not to go, automatically you will be in the path that you should go. So this is the beauty of approaching the life to remove the negativity first. So that's fine. But then we must know why such things happen, why there is something that needs to be avoided in life, why at all that incident happened. It's called hetu. And hetu means the cause, the reason for it. So if there is heya, we need to have a heya hetu. I use these terms because we are going to use the terms more. Okay, now I know what is to be avoided, heya. I know what is the cause of this to be avoided, heya hetu. But what's the point of that? I know it, but I need to really remove them. It's called heya hanaha. Hanaha means process. Heya hanaha means the process of removal. So now you know what to remove, why that exists, then the process of removing it. I know the process, but process is not good enough. The process, say, for example, to remove this thing, you do the, okay, I don't have children, I want to have children, then I go to the gurus and say, okay, you do putra kameshti agama, whatever. Heya hanaha is putra kameshti agama. But how to do it? So you need upayam. So hana upaya. So if you get all these four, see, Patanjali is such a great master. He is equipping you to attack this problem and he's giving the strategy now. So you're giving, okay, what is to be avoided? Why it exists? Why the second question? Because what's to be avoided is not good enough because you know why it comes so that you can attack the root of it. Otherwise, it will come again. The weed, if you just take off the top of it, it will come back again. You have to go to the root of it. Then the process of removing it, the tools to remove it. Now, if you take one thing that is impacting all human beings, all life form, all jivarasis, what is heya is dukkha. So even sukham that we see in the world is dukkha. See, don't have imagination in mind. Klesha means always sad things. Klesha is also joyful things in this world. Because ragam is there, ragam is sukham. That's one of the reasons, unless you know, some of us, we are really fortunate to come to this kind of classes and listen to. Normally we don't, because we enjoy life. You know, I pray to God. I have a wonderful family. I'm good health. I have nothing to worry. I'm enjoying it. You are soaked in a klesha because the klesha is dominated by shukas, but lead to dukkha. So I'm not saying you should not enjoy the happiness in life, but you treat the whole embodied life is dukkha. Not to be just grieving about it, but to master it. So in Vedanta, we use the word samsara. Samsara doesn't mean life. So no, there is a very meaningful argument about this. And now Vedantis normally talks about life is misery and life is, Buddha was the other end of it. Everything is dukkha, and life is joy, isn't it? So you enjoy life. Taittiriya Upanishad says everything is enjoyable, joyful. How can it be samsara then? If it is life is human embodiment in the world is samsara, why is Lord takes time to come as Rama, Krishna, Jesus, whatever you want to call it? That is not, samsara is not just being born as samsara. Samsara is how you live your life. If you are living a life without panja klesha, now if you are handling your life, then becomes mukta. That is moksha. So therefore here you can replace heyam as the dukkham if you like, or samsara. So here I think Patanjali uses dukkha. We can use the word samsara. So therefore we need to know what is samsara hetuhu. What is samsara hetuhu? So far from Patanjali, panchaklesha. In Vedanta, samsara hetuhu is karmas, pura karmas. But here we so far learning panchaklesha. So we are going to get connected in the next sutra. But let's now understand samsara hetuhu. We know. Samsara hanaha, what is that? Pratiprasava. He says, according to Patanjali here, the samsara nivritti is pratiprasavam. The question comes to our mind, samsara nivritti is only by jnanam in Vedanta. Here he says, pratiprasavam. This is like a bhakta goes to Swami and pray to him, please remove me from samsara. Don't go through, let me go through my Vedanta class writing exams in Vedanta. I have no brain for it. Just release me. So he will impart the knowledge to him, knowledge dawns to him, the knowledge releases him. So the same way here, Patanjali says, samsara hanaha is pratiprasava, means you will start managing, slicing your kleshas to subtle and subtle and subtle, so that it becomes so small, you can burn them away. What is the samsara hana upayaka, samsara upayaka? That she's going to say in the next sutra. So I just gave you this long go about way because I want you to understand where Patanjali is taking us in the next few sutras. There's one interesting one in the Kathopanishad. So Nachiketan goes to Lord of Death. So there's a story behind it. Let's leave the story behind. So he got an opportunity to talk to the Lord of Death, and Lord of Death basically offers him everything else to go back to the world and live with the Panchaklesha. Basically, he's giving samsara, glorified samsara. Get money, wife, children, go back and live happily, and I'll call you to my domain whenever you are ready to come. But he says, no, I don't want anything from you. I want to know how I beat you, how I am depriving of all the death, how I have become, Amrit. So the conversation goes on, and at one particular point, he started giving the upayams to Nachiket, and he says, Yachet Vang Manasai Manasi Prajnas Tat Yachet Jnana Atmani Jnanam Atmani Magati Nayachet Tat Yachet Chantatmi. Prajnas, that means if you are a jnani, if you are a sensible person, or any sensible person, prajnas, what they do, Vang Manasi. The Manasi means in the mind. Vang means walk, words. So all your verbal actions, Achet means merge. So they take the words, they merge the words into the mind. They become mauni. So all the verbal action, here verbal means it's also physical action. All these extracurricular activities that you do, you start merging into your mind. What's happening here? He's giving you pradiprasavam. Why it is pradiprasavam? You remember Lalita Sahasranam, he said, Para Madhyama Vaikari Rupa. Any word that you speak was the thought before. So when Yama says to Nachiketa that you put your word into your mouth, into your mind, what does it mean? Do the pratiprasama. Then he says, that mind, achet, put that in the mind, in what? Jnana Atmani. Here Jnana Atmani means that which gives you knowledge. That's a buddhi. So now he says, take the word, put into your mind. Take the mind, put into buddhi. Remember I told you in the last session, when you get the early morning, that Brahma Muhurta time, when the Chaitanyam get effulgence on the buddhi, buddhi gets up and say, I exist. That buddhi. From that, the mind, chittas comes. Therefore, the pratiprasavam of mind is, mind goes into the buddhi. That buddhi, jnanam atmani. Atmani mahati. Mahati means mahat. So this buddhi of mine is actually a very small part of the buddhi of the whole cosmos, the cosmic universe. So I take that consciousness of mine and submerged in the universal consciousness. So that's the pratiprasana, mahat. Then third, take that universal consciousness that you're putting into that cheda, shanta atmani. Beyond that is the shanta swarupam of yours, the Brahma swarupam. You merge in it. So this is the answer given to Nachiketa. If you want to be deathless, you have to merge yourself into that Shanta Atma, which is Parabrahma, which is yourself. But to do that, what you have to do, what you have, you start to do Pratiprasava. Nachiketan is so good because he doesn't need to go through this Kriya Yoga because he has done all that. He's very pious. The gross form is gone. So I just take the example here just to show you the Pratiprasavam, because when you get angry, the Pratiprasavam happens all the time. So when you get something you want to say, but you just think in your mind, gulp it. Pratiprasavam. It came out, it's gone inside. Now, when you do that in a very conscious way, then that becomes an upayam. Now, what is that conscious way? Now, if you look at all these things, you must already have something in your mind. What should be the next sutra? Why? Because what is the action here done? You take the words, put into your mind. How can you put something into mind? It's not a gross act, is it? I can't take the words and put in a bag and then put into mind. No. So what do you do here? You do a mental action. And the mind goes into buddhi. What do you do here again? The mind going to buddhi is again a mental action. So what is all the mental actions generally called? Dhyanam. So therefore, the hana upayaha, the process, the heya hana is dhyanam, upayam is dhyanam. So he says in the next sloka, we've just slightly touched upon this, and then we close it today. So dhyana heyas tat vrittayaha. So tat vrittayaha. Those vrittis heyas. So those vrittis are heya. Why? Because they need to be removed. Those subtle kleshas to be removed. By what? By meditation. So now he has come down to the very important part of the sadhana. So Kriya Yoga is done. Your external activities are controlled, your attitude changed, your value system changed. The test of you are doing Kriya Yoga is, without you asking, people are drawn to you. People are saying, well, I think I see a transformation in you. I see you very polite. I see you very nice. Please look for this kind of change in you. That means you are going in the right direction. Now you take up dhyana. So dhyanam can only come when you have your external stimuli are controlled. Because dhyanam makes you the object of contemplation. So you become what you are contemplating. Therefore, you need to enter to dhyana only if your mind can be pure, or you're able to really isolate, make those gross form into subtle form. You cannot make the mind pure to that level of purity, then you don't need any more thing. Then you become a liberated soul. So we become slightly impure, but we have a control over it. Like, when the dust comes, you take everything, put under the carpet, and you keep it clean. And like that, we keep everything clean. So if you're able to do that you can make those things into a subtle state, then you can go to dhyana. Why I say this? Because you will learn what you're going to do in dhyana. Of course, we're going to do dhyana on Ishvara Nama, Shiva Nama, Ishvara Rupa. Patanjali is not going to talk about all those things. Because you have to become an akshaya without death, immortality. Therefore, you need to really meditate upon that which is immortality, Amritam. And to do that, I cannot go with any, you just, truth cannot have falsehood. Truth is only there, nothing else. Fire cannot have anything else. Fire is only fire, nothing else can be there. Everything will be consumed. Now, in the space, you can put anything. Space is very tolerate Parabrahma Shakti. Anything can be there. But fire is a Di Shakti, Chaitanya Shakti. The water, you can pollute the water, pollute the air, pollute the space. You can't pollute the space. Space can contain pollution as well. But fire is impollutable. The same way here, I cannot meditate 100% on it, but I can take the approach knowing that I have this klesha in a sukshma form. But then later you will learn the reason why we keep them sukshma form, because sukshma form has to be put into karana saridam and then destroy it in a seed form. So what I will do, when I follow the dhyanam, I will take those sukshma, which I will do by pradiprasavam, I bring them out into gross form. Funny, isn't it? So I have anger, klesham. The anger I subsided into my sukshma by kriya yogam, suppress the anger. I conduct myself angerless. I behave very well because I am a kriya yogi. You cannot see me angry in the public. But the anger has become a seed. Pradiprasavam done. Now I go to the dhyanam. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to take the anger out. Why? It's already in a seed form. But the seed can be fertile. It can come out. So my dhyanam, so my hana, the process of that, I take this seed, I try to crush it, I can't crush it. Then what I do, I roast it. How do I roast it? I roast with the fire of jnanam. Understand? Then when I roast it like a fire of jnanam, it becomes a roasted seed. I don't care. It cannot fertile anymore. So once it's roasted, I push it, it goes straight into the causal state because all the seed is in the causal state. So it goes to the causal state, it will not come again. So in practical terms, when you do this Ashtanga Yoga Dhyana, we'll talk about it, because before we go to the Parabrahmam and all these things, we need to just take a very simple step. What is that klesha that I know I can hold on to it? It's my anger, my miserliness, my lust, my greed, my avarice, my jealous. You have to really, really identify all those things. If I identify, it goes in a ream of papers, but maybe for you it's one A4 sheet or A5 sheet, but have the sheet ready. because you really have to find out what is the issue that you have. Now, how can I know my issues? Because I'm blinded by my perception. This is where you need to be really observant of little quarrels, little arguments. Your good friend or your companion says, you're always like this, you're acting like this, Raja, you don't think, you're very short-tempered. Okay. No, don't short-temper. Take criticisms, not to challenge them. These are the things I'm going to do dhyanam on. I'm not going to do dhyanam on Mahalakshmi or Saraswati or Brahman because they can't do anything for you. Because it is your baggage that you accumulated. So the Pratiprasavam, therefore, is taking those little pointers and make them into a subtle form and don't interfere them in your Kriya Yoga. That means in your daily life, you run like a normal person. But then you know that it is in a Sukshma form. Therefore, I go and do dhyana. So we're going to talk about it, how it's going to be done. So we'll probably close it now. What's the time? 12:04. So very quick summary. So I will not recap it the next session, the whole thing. So just therefore, in a quick summary, Kriya Yogam is very important. Kriya Yogam is the one that I need to weaken my kleshas. Weaken means they are reduced in power and become powdered. If they are very powerful enough, it becomes powdered. It happens over a period of time. Maybe in 6 months of Kriya Yoga, all my kleshas become powdered Sukshma kleshas. Then I need to remove this Sukshma klesha because they can come back again from seed form. Therefore, I must take the dhyanam. So therefore, Kriya Yogam and dhyanam are contemporary, complementary. You can say all one. All comes from tapas, you can say that. And I need to really learn those things and I need to apply them in a part of the Ashtanga Yoga. But one question you must have in mind. Process is fine, but I got a little difficulty here. The Pratiprasavam I may do by practice. Prasavam I can do by practice. That means I put my jealous as a seed form. The dhyana state, bring the jealous out. I can do that. But then I said about roasting it with the fire. How am I going to do that? Where is the fire coming from? So that fire has to come from the Vedantic knowledge. But the interesting thing is, like a well-defined problem become a solution, right? Just now we saw that example. And when you start defining the problem, more and more you define the problem, it becomes itself a solution. Same way, more and more you define the question of what is this that you are trying to achieve, it becomes what you want to achieve. Therefore, we need to understand how the dhyanam is to be done. What is the root cause of this kleshas? And those questions should give me the real jnanam of the fire. With that fire, I will burn out this thing. Okay. We stop it here now. So we take the Shanti Padha. Om Shadoma Shadgamaya
Sadgamaya
Tamashoma Jyotirgamaya
Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya
Mrityoma Amridam Gamaya
Gamaya
Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
Om Shanti Shanti.
Hari Om.
Thank you, Raja.
Thank you.